my name's Dr. Jake Ames. Welcome to Guanajuato, Mexico. I live at 7,200 feet above sea level most of the year. In the winter, I live in Puerto Vallarta. Today I'm going to talk about how to survive the coronavirus, and if you do get it, ways to boost your immune system so you won't succumb to the coronavirus or even die from the coronavirus. So let's start with ways to boost the immune system with diet. First of all, I think most people should be off sugar. There's too many people eating sugar in America, and 1 teaspoon of sugar can suppress one's immune system for even up to 8 hours. So if you want to help prevent the coronavirus and other diseases, stay away from sugar. Secondly, a lot of Americans are eating the wrong fats. Mexicans like to eat corn oil, which is no good. So olive oil should be a main staple in your diet. And olive oil should be pure olive oil. It should not be tainted with canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, or even soybean oil, even chlorophyll to make it look green. Well, UC Davis in California did the olive oil study, and you might want to look up the olive oil study and see which brands have been tainted with these other oils. A lot of my cancer patients will consume up to 500 ml of olive oil a week. Somebody with pancreatitis or gallbladder disease should not be using this much fat. Basically, the animal fats are okay, but you want to stay away from most vegetable fats unless it's coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil, cocoa butter oil, etc. Ghee is a very good fat for the human body. I like Ancient Organics ghee in California. They make a real good quality ghee, Ghee. The diet in America has too many carbohydrates. Dr. Jan Kwasniewski, Kwasniewski, wrote a book called Homo Optimus. And he mentions the ideal ratio of proteins, fats, carbs in the diet should be 1 part protein, 2.5 to 3.5 parts fat, 0.3 to 0.5 carbs. And this diet will lower your insulin levels and help your immune system greatly. A lot of people are drinking tap water, or they're drinking a lot of mineral water. But the best water is actually distilled water. It's actually 100% pure water. And you can buy a TDS meter, total dissolved solids meter, and measure your water. So your water should actually be 0 parts per million. Some people say distilled water will leach your body of good minerals. It actually leaches your body of inorganic minerals, which clog up your arteries and your cells and your tissues, but it does not leach your body of organic minerals. So I find my patients do best drinking distilled water. As far as breathing goes, I recommend you all go to Wim Hof YouTube video site, and there's also his website. Wim Hof is spelled WMHOF. And he has these breathing exercises you can do. Usually it's 5 rounds of 30 breaths. And people do these exercises once a day. And this oxygenates the body and helps alkaline the body and really helps the immune system. Before I do the breathing exercise in the morning, I do a hot shower and then a cold shower for 5 minutes. And the cold shower really does help invigorate you and really does help with your immune system. It makes you more resistant to viruses and colds doing a 5-minute cold shower in the morning. And it can get pretty cold here in the winter. Last year I took a shower and the water was actually 39 degrees. And a few days before, it was 34 degrees. So you get used to it after a while. I just set my phone timer on for 5 minutes. Okay, so supplements to help prevent viruses in general and the coronavirus. The main two would be vitamin D3 and vitamin C. And if you go to PubMed, there's thousands of articles on vitamin D3 and vitamin C helping the immune system. This is not some feeling I have. This is fact. This is science-based evidence. So when my patients have a a severe viral infection, I give them intravenous vitamin C, usually sodium ascorbate. And they can be on any dose from 100 grams to even up to 300 grams with no side effects. There's going to be no kidney stones, none of that. I've given thousands and thousands of IV vitamin Cs, and the only side effect that people get well from severe flus pretty quickly. Normally, people take vitamin C up to bowel tolerance. That means if you take too much, you'll get loose stools or diarrhea. So the average dose I have patients taking is 1,000 milligrams 2 or 3 times a day. If you buy liposomal vitamin C, you'll have less chance of getting diarrhea, and you can go higher with a dose. If somebody is really sick, though, they should be getting intravenous vitamin C. Vitamin D3, the average dose is 5,000 international units a day. But I found out if they just take 1 tablespoon of olive oil with it, it's not enough. They need to actually do 2 tablespoons of olive oil when they take their vitamin A and D. If somebody hasn't been on vitamin D, they can do a loading dose of 100,000 IU day 1 and day 2, and then start with 5,000 IU a day. On the blood test is called 25-OH vitamin D, and you want to be between 75 and 100. And since I became a physician, not one patient has had optimal levels of vitamin D, which is pretty sad. In Mexico, I don't even see optimal levels because people are indoors all the time. The women walk around with umbrellas. They don't want to get tan. So it's a shame, but vitamin D3 is super, super important for the immune system. Iodine is very important. My average patient takes Lugol's iodine 5%, usually 4 to 5 drops a day. If they're sick with a flu, they can do 20 drops a day, no problem. I haven't seen many people allergic to iodine. They can be allergic to betadine, the iodine they use in a surgery suite for scrubbing the skin and sterilizing the skin, but very few people are allergic to Lugol's iodine, and that can usually be cured in a 5-minute acupressure treatment. Selenium is a birth control pill for viruses. There's 3 main types of selenium. There's sodium selenite that we give horses, cattle, livestock that the farmers use all the time. It's poorly absorbed. However, sodium selenite works well for some cancers better than other forms of selenium. So the selenium I mainly use is selenomethionine or methylselenomycin or both. So I have most patients taking 600 micrograms a day, most adults taking 600 micrograms a day of selenium, and they don't get any toxic side effects. In fact, selenium binds mercury, arsenic, cadmium, and makes them inert. So I think all of us need to be on extra selenium. It also helps prevent cancer. It also helps make glutathione, which is a powerful antioxidant when one has the coronavirus. So Life Extension Foundation makes a capsule that has all 3 types of selenium in there, which I recommend. That's a really good form of selenium. We talked about vitamin A is also fat soluble, and the average dose of vitamin A would be 10,000 IU a day, and that's the same dose I have people on when they have the coronavirus. I don't up the dose of vitamin A. I want to mention zinc and magnesium. Over 300 enzymes require zinc, and over 300 enzymes require magnesium. So if you're deficient on zinc, which a lot of my patients are, 300 enzymes in your body aren't going to be working that well. And zinc is really important for your immune system, really important. So my average patient takes zinc picolinate. If they can't find zinc picolinate, they take zinc citrate, usually 30 milligrams a day. And then when people are supplementing with the zinc, they need to also usually take copper in a 10-to-1 zinc to copper ratio. So they might want to take 2 milligrams of copper at dinner and 30 milligrams of zinc at breakfast. Zinc and copper tend to interfere with each other. That's why it's better to separate zinc and copper when you're taking them as a supplement. Magnesium, usually 500 milligrams once a day or twice a day of either magnesium citrate, magnesium chloride, or magnesium glycinate. Most people can't take more than that, otherwise they get diarrhea. Now with the coronavirus or any viral infection that you may have, you can up the zinc to 90 to 100 milligrams a day for a week, no problem. The selenium, when people are really sick with the coronavirus, they can up the dose to 2,000 micrograms a day for a week with no side effects, no toxicity. But normally, my average patient takes 200 micrograms to 600 micrograms a day of selenium. However, my patients with a lot of heavy metals like mercury, cadmium, arsenic, they're usually taking 600 micrograms a day of selenium in the form of methylselenocysteine or selenomethionine. So what I want to say, there's some supplements you can take that'll really help boost your immune system. The first thing is diet, though. You got to get sugar out of your diet, hydrogenated fats like margarine out of your diet, soft drinks out of your diet. Get on a real good quality water. You can even get a distiller machine if you want to. Do some breathing exercises. I didn't mention exercise. I exercise every day here up in the mountains. And a few days a week, you want to do a pretty long session of exercise, but every single day you should be doing some exercise. You want to get good quality sleep. Sleep is really important for your immune system. And don't have any light on in the bedroom except for red light. Red light will not affect your melatonin, but other forms of light do. So if you have a bathroom light, make sure it's a red light. So these are things you can do to supplement your immune system. A lot of Americans are obese and overweight, and obese people and diabetic people will succumb to coronavirus a lot easier. So it's real important when you do want to lose weight, be on a ketogenic diet, but a low-protein ketogenic diet at first. Dr. Longo, who wrote the longevity diet, is from USC. He says people should be having 0.36 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And that's okay unless you're an athlete where you need more protein, but too much protein can also adversely affect your immune system. So these are some guidelines you can do to prevent the coronavirus from really harming you or causing any long-term damage or even killing you. Basically, if you're in really bad shape, you want to see a doctor right away and get IV vitamin C. Besides IV vitamin C, you can do nebulized glutathione, where you have an ultrasonic nebulizer, you breathe in glutathione, a real powerful intracellular antioxidant, and you can do IV glutathione afterwards. And some people might have some detox reactions from the glutathione because it's removing a lot of heavy metals. So they can take activated charcoal, 1 teaspoon 4 times a day, the same day they have the glutathione IV. Lipoic acid, no more than 600 milligrams a day IV, but if you want to supplement with that, you can do 100 milligrams of R-lipoic acid, and that would be a good supplement. Quercetin is a vitamin C bioflavonoid, and quercetin also helps the cytokine storm, and it also is a good supplement. But the main supplements would be the vitamin C, the vitamin D, the iodine, and selenium. But you want to do some blood tests, and on the vitamin A, you want to be at the top 75 to 100 percentile. On your vitamin D, you do the blood test 25-OH vitamin D. You want to be between 75 and 100. On minerals like selenium, zinc, manganese, molybdenum, you want to do a red blood cell mineral test, not a serum test. A serum test is not accurate, so only a few labs in the U.S. can check minerals inside the red blood cell membranes. So have your doctor order red blood cell selenium, red blood cell zinc, copper, red blood cell magnesium, manganese, chromium, cobalt, molybdenum, and you want to see where you are with your immune system. I like to use Doctor's Data Lab in Chicago. I've been using them since 1994. They're an excellent hair analysis lab, and they've got 2 hair tests. You want to do the hair elements test. It'll check your levels of heavy metals and minerals, okay? And you're not going to have a good immune system if you have a lot of mercury. In fact, a lot of people are still, a lot of dentists are still putting mercury fillings in people's mouths. So if you do have any mercury fillings, get rid of them. Get rid of them safely from a biological dentist so you don't get poisoned with mercury. Get rid of your root canals. Root canals should be illegal. They're horrible. They might even be worse than mercury fillings. Get rid of any gingivitis, periodontal disease. What I recommend is brush your teeth with baking soda, add a little bit of sea salt or Himalayan salt to the baking soda. Use an ultrasonic toothbrush, floss once a day. And I use regular Clorox as a mouth rinse, but don't be stupid. You're going to dilute it down. I use a half a teaspoon to a measuring cup of water, and I just use it once a day as a mouth rinse. Some people use chlorine dioxide as a mouth rinse. The brand is called Closys, CLO-SYS. And that's a pretty good mouth rinse, too. But if you don't have a healthy mouth or healthy teeth, you have gingivitis or periodontal disease, you're not going to have a good immune system. So you definitely want to check your heavy metals, and the hair analysis is a good screening test. I said screening test for heavy metals and mineral deficiencies. You combine the hair analysis with the red blood cell mineral test to see where you are with your minerals. Now, if you're an old guy like me, you want to be on hormones, bioidentical hormones, and try to get your levels back to age 25. And you need to find a real good doctor who specializes in bioidentical hormones, because a lot of endocrinologists don't even know how to prescribe bioidentical hormones correctly. Many people are low on thyroid hormone, and I'd like you all to look at Mark Starr's YouTube videos, STARR. He's got a book called Type 2 Hypothyroidism, like type 2 diabetes, but it's type 2 hypothyroidism, where there's thyroid resistance. So the receptors, the nuclear thyroid hormone receptors, might be dirty with chemicals or heavy metals like mercury, cadmium. So the thyroid hormone blood tests may appear normal, but you're low on thyroid hormone. So the best way to see if you're low on thyroid hormone is to look at signs and symptoms. Look at the signs and symptoms of being low on thyroid, hypothyroidism. Also, take your temperature with an accurate basal digital thermometer that's accurate to 1/100th of a degree, 1/100, not 1/10 of a degree. And your temperature should be, in the afternoon, at least 2 hours after eating, between 98.2 and 98.6. If your temperature for 5 days in a row is running below 98.2, you might be low in thyroid hormones. So use the thyroid hormone blood test as a guide. And some doctors don't like to check the total T3 or the total T4. I like to check the totals and the free T3 and T4. So I check total T3, total T4, free T3. I don't check free T4. I check TSH. And somebody with any autoimmune diseases or family history of thyroid hormone disease, I check thyroid antibodies, antimicrosomal antibody, antithyroglobulin antibody. Sorry, I'm talking a little fast. I used to live in New York City and London, England, so I tend to talk a little fast at times. But you can always rewind the video or even write me on my YouTube channel. So these are ways you can help your immune system. So it is really important to have your doctor and yourself check your temperatures and your thyroid hormone to make sure they're okay. Now, zinc and selenium convert inactive thyroid to active thyroid. That's T4 to T3. Iodine is what thyroid hormone is made from. It's made from tyrosine, the amino acid, and iodine. So David Brownstein, he wrote a really good book on iodine. I highly recommend his book. And Mark Sircus, S-I-R-C-U-S, in Brazil, I know him very well. He wrote another good book on iodine. So most of us are deficient in iodine, and we don't need microgram amounts of iodine. We need milligram amounts of iodine. So you'll learn more about iodine when you read David Brownstein's book on iodine and also Mark Sircus's book on iodine. So these are ways you can help boost your immune system. Practice the breathing exercises, drink the good water, cut down the weight, get on the 1 part protein, 2.5 to 3.5 parts fat, 0.3 to 0.5 carbs in your diet. You might have to get a scale at first and weigh out your food. When I weigh out meat, I don't count the fat in the meat. I should, but I'm not that accurate. So basically, after a while, you'll get a feel of when you're getting too many carbohydrates. You can check your insulin levels, and if they're over 5, you're probably getting too many carbohydrates. So you want to keep your insulin levels between the lower reference range and around 5. Don't go higher than 6 or 7 on insulin. And this is how you're going to stay healthy. I do recommend fasting. I have a video on fasting on my YouTube channel you can look at, and I've got a blog on fasting. So these are all ways you can boost your immune system and not be scared of the coronavirus. Social distancing is fine. Wearing a mask is fine. I already had the coronavirus in January. I survived it. A lot of people have had it. Some people hardly have any symptoms. Some people have severe symptoms. The people with severe symptoms are the people usually low in vitamin D, low in vitamin C, iodine, zinc, selenium. So that's why it's real important to boost your immune system with these minerals and vitamins, because all of us are low in minerals. I've never found a person with adequate or optimal levels of minerals. Never, never. People are low in so many minerals, it's not funny. I just want to mention that this diet is an excellent diet for most chronic diseases. If you have hypertension, type 2 diabetes, obesity, any kind of chronic illness, this diet is going to help you. You're going to be staying away from the junk food, the sugar like I talked about. I didn't mention any gluten. Some people can eat gluten, but these days a lot of people are gluten intolerant. And if you do want to help your immune system, in general, I would stay away from gluten, hydrogenated fats, get the weight down, and you should be able to do well with the coronavirus. It shouldn't really affect you that much. You won't end up in the morgue or with a chronic disease your whole life, which can happen. But the coronavirus affects every organ in your body. I want to mention that Guanajuato is a really beautiful place. I love living here. I live here most of the year. I live in Puerto Vallarta in the winter. And this place is really safe. And I think you ought to visit this place. It's just so beautiful. San Miguel de Allende is about an hour and 20 minutes away from here. That's a really nice city, too. I recommend if you come here, visit San Miguel. I personally like Guanajuato better. This place also has 3 universities. The university's closed right now, but the students should be back in January. And like I was mentioning before, the symphony here is world class. And once a year, we have this festival called Cervantino, where there's top musicians from all over the planet coming here. It's just incredible. So there's great food here, great restaurants, museums, you name it. So I recommend that you do come to Guanajuato, and you really love this place. And the weather's so nice here. It's just beautiful weather. It's not hot and humid. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Jake Ames from San Miguel de Allende. San Miguel de Allende is about an hour and 15 minutes from Guanajuato. Yesterday in Guanajuato, I talked about different ways to help boost your immune system to help combat the coronavirus. Today I'm going to talk about more acute measures if you're in the hospital, what doctors need to do, and to recap a few things that I talked about yesterday. If you're very sick where you need to be hospitalized, you definitely need intravenous sodium ascorbate. That's a buffered form of IV vitamin C. Usually when patients have the flu, I give 100 grams, which is 100,000 milligrams, over 3 hours minimum. Some people with the flu need 200 grams, that's 200,000 milligrams over 5 hours, and they do quite well. With the IV, I usually add zinc, selenium, and 2 cc's of magnesium sulfate or 2 cc's of magnesium chloride. It's a 50% mixture, and that works well. A lot of people are deficient in magnesium. Over 300 enzymes require magnesium, and over 300 enzymes require zinc. With the coronavirus, if you're in a hospital, you can use nebulized reduced glutathione. Glutathione is a real powerful intracellular antioxidant, and it helps prevent the cytokine storm, the inflammatory process that's happening with the coronavirus. So I usually give intravenous glutathione after the IV vitamin C, anywhere from 1,000 milligrams to 2,000 milligrams. When patients take activated charcoal, they mix a teaspoon of water 4 times a day, they have less detox reactions from the glutathione because the glutathione will pull out a lot of heavy metals. At the same time they're getting an IV, then get an ultrasonic nebulizer and nebulize glutathione, and that goes right directly into the lungs, into the bloodstream. Works quite nicely. Almost everybody is deficient in vitamin D. I haven't seen a patient with optimal vitamin D levels in the U.S. or Mexico since I began my medical career, unless they're taking supplementation. So my average patient takes 5,000 international units a day of vitamin D3 with 2 tablespoons of fat, usually 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I found 1 tablespoon of olive oil usually isn't enough. Vitamin A and D are fat-soluble vitamins. They need fat to be absorbed. Some of my patients actually need 10,000 international units a day of vitamin D3. You want to keep the blood test, it's called 25-OH, which stands for hydroxy D3 blood test, between 75 and 100. On the vitamin A blood test, you want to be in the upper 75 percentile to 100 percentile. And most patients will need 10,000 international units a day with fat, with oil, to get their vitamin A levels up. Eating enough carrots usually isn't enough. Zinc, average patient takes 30 milligrams a day. If they're really sick with the coronavirus, they should be on 90 to 100 milligrams a day. The best zinc to be absorbed is usually zinc picolinate, but zinc citrate also works quite nicely. Selenium, there's 3 forms. There's sodium selenite, which they give animals. That form works well for some types of cancers. However, it's not absorbed that well. So I mainly use selenomethionine and methylselenomycin. Most of my patients are on 600 micrograms a day, 200 micrograms is the minimum, but people have so much mercury and other heavy metals in their body. Selenium helps detox mercury. It actually binds to mercury, arsenic, and cadmium and makes them inert. If people are sick with the coronavirus, they can be on 2,000 micrograms a day of selenium for a week with no toxic side effects. And I would mix that with selenomethionine and methylselenomycin. Life Extension, though, has a formula that has all 3 types of selenium in there, including sodium selenite, which works really well. Iodine is really important. Like I mentioned yesterday, you want to read Dr. Brownstein's book on iodine, and Mark Sircus, S-I-R-C-U-S, has another good book on iodine. My average patient takes 4 to 5 drops a day of iodine in water, and each drop is usually 6 milligrams to 6.5 milligrams of Lugol's iodine, 5%. L-U-G-O-L-S. Iodine, as you know, is part of thyroid hormone. Iodine kills bacteria, kills some fungi, kills some viruses, and almost all of us are low on iodine. The vitamins have microgram amounts of iodine in the vitamins, microgram, not milligram. And people need to be on milligram doses of iodine. They're not going to overdose on iodine. I've been using iodine for years. When my patients are sick, they'll usually take about 20 drops a day in divided doses in water of Lugol's iodine. Normally they take 4 or 5 drops a day of Lugol's iodine. Like I said, each drop is 6 milligrams to 6.5 milligrams usually of Lugol's iodine. Vitamin C, liposomal vitamin C causes less GI distress than regular vitamin C. When you're sick, you can tolerate a lot more vitamin C. That's called bowel tolerance before you get loose stools or diarrhea. So the average person should be on at least 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C twice a day. I usually have my patients get ascorbic acid powder because it's cheaper, and then they can add a pinch of baking soda to that, and the baking soda will make the vitamin C become sodium ascorbate, and that it actually is a buffered form. That's a little easier on the GI tract. And a lot of us are in an acidic condition anyway, and the sodium ascorbate helps this. Vitamin D3, if you haven't been on vitamin D3 supplementation and you're sick with the coronavirus, you might want to have a bolus of vitamin D3. That means 100,000 units day 1, 100,000 units day 2 with the 2 tablespoons of fat just to get your levels up. And then take 5,000 IU a day afterwards and do a blood test, the 25-OH vitamin D a month later, and see where you're at. At the same time, do vitamin A blood test. When you're testing for these minerals like I talked about, zinc, selenium, copper, so forth, you want to check red blood cell minerals, not serum minerals. So you're actually checking the minerals in the red blood cell membranes. So there's a panel that includes red blood cell zinc, red blood cell copper, red blood cell magnesium, red blood cell manganese, red blood cell cobalt, red blood cell molybdenum, red blood cell chromium. And this can be combined with doctors' data hair analysis. And they've got 2 hair analyses. The one I recommend is what's called hair elements test. And that's going to check heavy metals and mineral deficiencies, because if you've got a lot of mercury in your body or a lot of lead or other heavy metals, you're not going to have a good immune system to fight off anything, especially this virus. Like I mentioned yesterday, if you're obese or overweight, you're not going to do that well having a severe coronavirus infection. So it's important to keep your weight down. I mentioned that you can be on a moderate protein ketogenic diet the ratio is 1 part protein, 2.5 to 3.5 parts fat, 0.3 to 0.5 carbohydrates. It's almost impossible to keep people on a ketogenic diet for a long term, but if you have type 2 diabetes, or if you're overweight, or if you want to boost your immune system, then the ketogenic diet is good in the short term, with also some intermittent fasting or some long-term fasting. Yesterday I mentioned that there's a big proportion of the population low on thyroid hormone despite having normal thyroid blood tests. This is called type 2 hypothyroidism, where the thyroid hormone, the receptors in the nucleus of your cells are dirty, so to speak, and these receptors might be blocked with mercury or some chemicals or heavy metals, and the thyroid hormone has trouble getting inside the cells. So a good way to determine if you have type 2 hypothyroidism is take your temperature in the afternoon. You want to have a thermometer that's accurate to 1/100th of a degree, not 1/10th of a degree. And they're called digital basal thermometers. And the ideal temperature for mankind should be 98.2 to 98.6 in the afternoon. Celsius, it's 36.7 to 37 degrees. You do this for 5 days in a row. And if you're running below 98.2 Fahrenheit or 36.7 Celsius, you may be low on thyroid hormone. So use the thyroid blood test more as a guide. Also look at signs and symptoms. You might have a lot of signs and symptoms of hypothyroidism, but your blood tests are showing normal. There's also a huge range of normal in the blood tests. So I like to check total T4, total T3, because I feel it's real important to know the total amount of hormones. Free T3, I don't check free T4. TSH test, thyroid stimulating hormone. And if there's any autoimmune disease or hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism in the family, check thyroid antibodies. That's antimicrosomal antibody and antithyroglobulin antibody. If you're low on thyroid hormone or iodine, you're not going to have a good immune system. That's just a fact. You have to get the thyroid hormone at optimal levels. If you're an older person, you might need to be on bioidentical hormones. They're going to help your immune system slightly. A good hormone that helps your immune system is DHEA, and you measure actually DHA sulfate on the blood test. You don't measure DHEA. And the DHA sulfate blood tests for men and women should be at least over 200. It's usually around 250 to 300 on the blood tests. Pregnenolone is another adrenal hormone like DHEA, and pregnenolone you want to be around 200 on the blood test. So what I'm basically saying is try to keep your hormones between age 25 and 30. Make sure your thyroid hormone is optimal, because a lot of people have type 2 hypothyroidism. That's not even taught in medical school, believe it or not. Keep your vitamins and minerals at optimal levels, okay? There's a condition called the MTHFR mutation, MTHFR mutation. And these people with this mutation have difficulties methylating folate. Folate is a natural form of folic acid, which is synthetic, which is found in dark green leafy vegetables. And it's important to have this checked sometime in your lifetime, sooner than better, because if you're low on methylfolate, you're not going to have a good immune system. You're not going to feel healthy. And these people that have the MTHFR mutation, they need to be on methylfolate and also methyl B12. It's called methylcobalamin. So I would recommend all of you get the MTHFR mutation test and just see where you're at, because around 95% of autistic children have this mutation, and it's causing a lot of problems. Chronic fatigue syndrome, it increases your chance of getting cancer, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue states. So it's a really bad mutation, and it's easily treated with methylfolate and methyl B12. It's going to be hard to convince a lot of doctors and hospitals to give somebody or your family with the coronavirus intravenous vitamin C. But if you go to PubMed, there's thousands and thousands of articles on vitamin C, even intravenous vitamin C, how it works. And Intravenous vitamin C has been proven to cure acute polio. It can cure acute Ebola, acute rabies, acute hepatitis A, B, and C, influenza, but you have to use the right dose. Everything's dose dependent. So the lowest dose I usually use is 100 grams, sometimes 50 grams. But for the flu, I use 200 grams all the time. I've given people 300 grams of vitamin C. So don't be afraid of having too much vitamin C, because no one on this planet has ever died from excess vitamin C. No one. It's safe in the water. Some people have died from excess water. They drink too much water, they get low on potassium or sodium, and they have a seizure. But no one on this planet has ever died from excess vitamin C. So vitamin C should be given in every hospital when people have any type of infection, as well as glutathione. Now, lipoic acid can be given once a day, usually 500, 600 milligrams, and that's a good antioxidant. You don't want to give usually more than that because it can have some toxic liver side effects. Orally, people can take a vitamin C bioflavonoid called quercetin, usually 500 milligrams 2 or 3 times a day, and that's also good for the immune system and for different viral infections. So that's all I want to say today, basically, and thanks a lot for looking at this video. And do come to San Miguel de Allende, and do come to Guanajuato someday. These are really nice towns in Mexico. We're in a rainy season right now, so it's a little windy, and it usually rains in the afternoon. But these places are so nice to visit, and they're not hot in the summer like Puerto Vallarta or other places on the coast. So thank you again for watching this video. Bye-bye.